Have you ever been betrayed so deeply that revenge seemed like the only option? Do you find yourself replaying past wrongs, imagining how you'd make them regret hurting you? Now pause. What if I told you that your true power isn't found in retaliation, but in rising so high that they can no longer touch you? Welcome to a space where self-mastery replaces vengeance. If you're on a journey of growth, discipline, and inner strength, make sure to subscribe, because we're building something stronger than revenge. We're building greatness. 1. The trap of revenge. Revenge, it's seductive, powerful. It whispers to you in your darkest moments saying, you deserve justice. It tells you that if you just make them feel what they made you feel, then you'll be free. Then the pain will stop. But here's the truth most people won't tell you. Revenge is a trap. It pretends to offer closure. It pretends to give you back your power. But what it actually does is tie you tighter to the very person who wounded you. When someone hurts you, betrays your trust, humiliates you, disrespects you, your natural instinct is to retaliate. It's human. You feel violated, and your pride wants restitution. But revenge doesn't heal you. It hardens you. It doesn't restore your dignity. It drags you down to their level. You may feel a fleeting surge of satisfaction if you get back at them. But what comes next? A hollowness. A realization that you're still carrying the burden of that pain. And even worse, you've now become a mirror of what hurt you. Why is this a trap? Because it locks you in a loop, a cycle of emotional reactivity, where your focus is no longer on your life, your growth, your purpose, but on them. Your thoughts orbit around someone who likely isn't even thinking about you. Every ounce of your energy becomes invested in proving a point to someone who doesn't deserve your attention. Imagine holding a burning coal, waiting to throw it, but every second you hold it, you're the one getting burned. That's what revenge does. You suffer while waiting for the right moment to strike. But in reality, the fire is consuming you. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Not equal to them, unlike them. To stand taller, to move with a different energy, to outgrow the harm they inflicted on you. True revenge, if we must call it that, is becoming so powerful, so unbothered, so elevated in your life that the person who tried to tear you down can no longer reach you. Not because you fought back, but because you rose above. You evolved." Here's the painful irony. Revenge doesn't undo what happened. It doesn't erase the betrayal. It doesn't restore your peace. It only adds more conflict to your spirit. You become emotionally tethered to that person, rehearsing the pain, reliving the insult, replaying the scenario. But healing, real healing, comes not from reaction, but from redefinition. Redefining what power means, redefining how you want to carry yourself. Redefining what kind of life you want to build, not as a reaction to them, but as a reflection of you. Ask yourself, do you want your life to be a counterpunch or a masterpiece? Because you can't create both at the same time. If you're constantly driven by revenge, your energy becomes reactive. You're letting them set the agenda for your future. That is not power. That is surrender, disguised as strength. So what's the alternative? Let go, not because they're innocent, but because you're done letting them live rent-free in your mind. Forgive, not because they deserve peace, but because you do. Focus, not on retaliation, but on transformation, on building a life so rich, so grounded, so deeply fulfilling, that no one's betrayal can steal your joy again. You don't have to win by fighting back. You win by moving forward. Let them watch you thrive in silence. Let them feel your distance, not your wrath. And when they see you glowing, untouched, unbothered, and unstoppable, that's when they'll realize they lost the moment you chose peace over pain. 2. Stoic strength and emotional discipline. Let's talk about emotional discipline, because that's where true strength lives. When we hear the word strength, most of us imagine something physical, muscles, intensity, a warrior charging into battle. But real strength, the kind that creates unshakable power, is invisible. It's internal. It's emotional. And yet, it's the rarest form of power. We live in a world that rewards reaction. Someone insults you, and you're expected to clap back. Someone wrongs you, and you're praised for going after them. The louder you respond, the more attention you get. But attention isn't the same as control. In fact, the louder you react, the more control you give away. That's where the wisdom of the Stoics comes in. The Stoics, thinkers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, weren't soft. They were warriors, emperors, slaves, and philosophers who lived through hardship and betrayal. But what set them apart was not just their intellect, it was their discipline, their refusal to be ruled by emotion. They taught that no one can truly hurt you unless you allow them to. Let that sink in. You can't always control what people do, but you can always control how you respond. And that's where your power lies. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." What he's saying is revolutionary. If someone can control your emotions, they control you. Think about it. If they can make you angry, they own a piece of your mind. If they can make you bitter, you're playing their game. They've written part of your story, but emotional mastery flips the script. Instead of reacting, you observe. Instead of exploding, you breathe. Instead of chasing justice, you choose peace. This isn't weakness. It's the highest form of discipline. Let's be honest. Anyone can react. That's easy. Children react. Animals react. But to stay calm while the storm rages around you? That's elite. That's rare. That's powerful. And it's a muscle. Emotional discipline doesn't just happen. You train it. Like lifting weights, it takes repetition. You train it in those everyday moments. When someone cuts you off in traffic and you don't yell. When someone disrespects you and you don't stoop to their level. When someone betrays your trust and you choose distance over drama. Each time you choose silence over spite, presence over panic, or growth over gossip, you're winning. You're strengthening that inner core that nothing and no one can shake. But here's the trap most people fall into. They confuse emotion with truth. Just because you feel anger doesn't mean you have to act on it. Just because you feel hurt doesn't mean you have to prove a point. Emotional maturity is knowing the difference between what you feel and how you choose to behave. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is the essence of Stoic strength. Life will throw chaos at you. People will betray you. Things will break. Plans will fall apart, and storms will come. That's inevitable. But what's not inevitable is your breakdown. You don't have to fall apart with the storm. You get to pause, reflect, choose your response. Because every time you hold your composure, you remind yourself you are the master of your mind, not its servant. Emotional discipline isn't about being numb. It's not about suppressing how you feel. It's about acknowledging your emotions and then choosing what to do with them. And the more you practice this, the stronger you become. The more bulletproof your spirit becomes. Until one day, someone tries to trigger you, and it just doesn't work. Because you're no longer built for petty conflict. You're built for peace. You're no longer pulled into emotional chaos. You are the calm, and that right there is what true power looks like. 3. Biology, the brain, and the trap of impulse. Let's step back for a moment, not into philosophy, but into biology. Because to master your emotions, you first have to understand them. To gain control, you need to see what's actually happening inside you when someone disrespects, betrays, or offends you. Here's the truth. You are hardwired for revenge. That craving you feel to retaliate, that fire in your chest when someone wrongs you, it's not weakness, it's not immaturity, it's biology. It starts in a tiny part of the brain called the amygdala. The amygdala is part of your limbic system, your emotional processing center. Its job is to keep you alive, to sense danger, to prepare you to fight, flee, or freeze. It's fast, impulsive, and ancient. And when you feel attacked, emotionally or physically, it lights up like a wildfire. In that moment, your body becomes flooded with adrenaline and cortisol. Your muscles tense, your heart rate spikes, and your thinking brain, the prefrontal cortex, gets pushed to the side. You're no longer responding with reason. You're reacting with instinct. This reaction is survival-based. Evolution designed us to protect ourselves. Thousands of years ago, if someone wronged you or threatened your tribe, retaliation was a matter of survival. Revenge meant warning others not to mess with you again. It had an evolutionary benefit. But today, in a world of conversation, not combat, in a society of laws, not tribal vengeance, those same instincts often betray you. The amygdala doesn't care about your long-term goals. It doesn't care about your peace, your values, or your dignity. It only cares about one thing: survival through immediate reaction. And this is exactly where many people lose themselves. You get insulted, and before you think, you snap back. Someone breaks your heart, and your first urge is to show them you don't need them by finding someone new or posting something calculated. You get lied to, and you burn the bridge without reflection. All of these are impulse-driven reactions. They may feel powerful in the moment, but in truth, they cost you your clarity, and worse, they can cost you your integrity. This is why self-mastery starts with self-awareness. You have to catch the moment when the amygdala flares, that split second where your heart starts racing, your face gets hot, and your thoughts spiral. You have to breathe, step back. Let the prefrontal cortex, the rational, evolved part of your brain, come back online. Because while your biology is primal, your destiny is not. You're not an animal. You're not a slave to your emotion. You have a choice. That choice is everything. Most successful people in life, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, are not those who avoid pain or never feel angry. They are the ones who've trained themselves to pause before they act, to question their emotions before obeying them. Think of emotional mastery like driving a high-performance car. Your emotions are the engine, powerful, fast, capable of taking you far, but without a steering wheel you crash. Impulse is the engine without direction. Discipline is the hand on the wheel. So how do you strengthen that discipline? It starts with practice in the small moments. When someone says something irritating, and instead of snapping, you take a deep breath. When you get a passive-aggressive text, and instead of replying right away, you wait. When you're triggered emotionally, and instead of reacting, you journal or go for a walk. Each time you choose response over reaction, you weaken the grip of the amygdala and strengthen your inner commander. Eventually, you develop what's called emotional flexibility. You still feel everything, you just don't act on everything. You still get angry, but anger no longer owns you. You become the one in charge, and that's the difference between those who grow and those who stay stuck. Those who grow know that their biology might push them toward revenge, but their vision pulls them toward purpose. They choose progress over provocation, power over impulse. They've learned to say, just because it's natural doesn't mean it's helpful. Just because it's instinct doesn't mean it's wise. That's emotional evolution. That's the next level of self-improvement, and that's how you stop letting your biology sabotage your legacy. 4. The silence that shouts. Power in a noisy world, silence is often misunderstood. People think silence means weakness, that staying quiet means you're afraid, submissive, or indifferent. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Silence, when intentional, is power. And if you truly want to master yourself, if you want to rise above pettiness, conflict, and emotional chaos, you must learn this. Not everything deserves a reaction. Sometimes silence is the loudest answer you can give. We've all been there. Someone throws a passive-aggressive comment. Someone disrespects you. Someone tries to bait you into drama. Every part of you wants to fire back, to defend your name, to set the record straight, to win the argument. But here's the question. Win what exactly? Winning an argument doesn't mean you've gained peace. It means you've been pulled into a war someone else started. And even if you get the last word, you may lose your balance, your dignity, and your time. Now imagine this instead. They provoke you, and you don't flinch. You don't explain. You don't retaliate. You simply refuse to engage. That is strength, because silence says, I no longer need your approval. It says, you don't control my emotions. It says, your chaos can't enter my peace. And when people realize they can no longer manipulate you with drama, they lose their power over you. Silence is a discipline, and one of the hardest to develop. It requires a strong identity. When you know who you are, when you're grounded in your purpose, you don't feel the need to prove anything to anyone. You stop reacting to every insult because you've elevated beyond that level of thinking. The Stoics practiced this form of strength religiously. They believed that if your peace could be disturbed by someone else's behavior, you weren't truly free. Freedom isn't just about doing what you want. It's about being so emotionally sovereign that you can choose not to act, even when it burns inside to respond. Seneca once said, sometimes even to live is an act of courage. And I would add, sometimes to remain silent is an act of supreme courage. It takes guts to not clap back. It takes confidence to walk away. It takes emotional mastery to understand that silence isn't surrender. It's strategy. Let's be clear. This isn't about being passive. It's not about avoiding conflict out of fear. It's about choosing your battles. It's about knowing that not everything is worthy of your time or energy. When someone tries to pull you into their emotional fire and you stay still, you disarm them. They expect a fight. They want to see you lose composure. But when you don't react, they're left alone with their own noise. In many ways, silence is a mirror. When you stay calm, you reflect back their own chaos. You show them exactly who they are without ever raising your voice. That's why silence isn't just restraint. It's a revelation. It reveals who has control, and that control, that self-possession, it's one of the most attractive, respected, and rare qualities you can have. People start to notice you don't respond like others. You don't argue for the sake of ego. You don't seek to destroy. You elevate. Eventually, they learn. You're not easily provoked because you've built an inner sanctuary too valuable to be disturbed. Silence also buys you clarity. It gives you space to think, to assess, to respond, not out of emotion, but from wisdom. How many regrets in life come from words spoken in anger or haste? But rarely do we regret the things we didn't say, especially when silence preserved our peace. So next time you're triggered, remember this. You don't owe them an explanation. You don't need to match their energy. You don't have to dance with chaos just because it's in the room. You can rise in silence. You can speak volumes without a word. You can show them that their attempts to disturb you no longer work because you've outgrown the need to react. That's not weakness. That's real power. 5. Build the life that outshines the pain. Let's talk about the real revenge, excellence. Because while most people waste their energy on proving others wrong, The wise redirect that energy toward becoming someone who doesn't need to prove anything at all. That's the path of personal excellence. That's where self-improvement stops being a hobby and becomes a way of life. Too many people stay stuck in cycles of resentment, always focused on what someone else did to them. But here's a question worth asking. What could your life look like if you put that energy into building something extraordinary instead? That's the turning point. That's when healing becomes growth. That's when you stop trying to win a battle with someone who hurt you and start building a life they can't even access anymore. And it doesn't start with giant steps. It starts with small, consistent, disciplined action. Discipline is the foundation. Discipline is not punishment. It's freedom. It's the structure that gives your goals a home. Without discipline, emotions run your life. You eat when you feel like it. You work when you're motivated. You quit when things get uncomfortable. But excellence requires a different standard. It requires that you rise when you don't feel like it, that you train your body, sharpen your mind, and elevate your spirit every day. It means you stop negotiating with your weakness and start keeping promises to yourself. You become the kind of person who chooses growth over comfort, who shows up early, stays late, and gives more than they take. Not to impress anyone, but to become the kind of person you respect in the mirror. Because when you focus on your own evolution, your enemies start to disappear. Not because they've changed, but because they can no longer reach you. They're not in your league anymore. You're not even playing the same game. Daily rituals for inner power excellence isn't built by accident, it's built by ritual. Here are some powerful habits to help you develop inner strength and emotional mastery. Morning discipline. Start your day early. Read, journal, meditate. Set your tone before the world tries to set it for you. Physical mastery. Move your body daily. Whether it's lifting, running, or stretching, use discipline in your physical health to build mental resilience. Mental diet. Be intentional about what you consume. Avoid gossip, negativity, and distractions. Feed your mind with books, podcasts, and conversations that uplift and challenge you. Digital boundaries. Limit screen time. Silence unnecessary notifications. Protect your mental space like it's sacred, because it is. Surround yourself with standards. Be around people who force you to level up. People who speak truth, who value growth, who live with purpose. Reflect and adjust. Every evening, ask yourself, did I live in alignment with my highest self today? If not, learn and refine. No guilt, just growth. Excellence makes revenge obsolete. When your life is built around becoming the best version of yourself, revenge becomes irrelevant. You no longer care who doubted you, who left you, who lied to you, because you're too focused on creating something powerful out of your pain. Your transformation becomes the closure. Your peace becomes the proof. Your excellence becomes the echo that speaks louder than words ever could. And here's the irony. When you stop chasing revenge, you become someone they can't ignore, but also someone they can't touch, because you're no longer operating from emotion, you're operating from vision. The energy shift every time you resist the urge to react, and instead create. You shift the energy from they hurt me to I'm healing me, from they disrespected me to I'm elevating me, from they need to pay to I'm going to build something so powerful they no longer matter. That's the mindset of a high performer. That's how you become untouchable, not by fighting, but by rising. And the best part, you're not doing it for them. You're not even doing it to prove a point. You're doing it because you know this life is short, and your story deserves more than bitterness. It deserves brilliance. It deserves growth. It deserves excellence. Rise above. Reclaim power. You've been hurt. That's real. But your pain doesn't get to write your story. You do. Emotional mastery isn't easy. It requires daily work, but it's the work that sets you free. Forgive not because they deserve it, but because you do. Let go, not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to focus on the life you deserve. Take the high road, not because it's easier, but because it leads to peace, power, and purpose. Subscribe if you're ready to leave behind the noise and step into a life of unshakable strength.